841 Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw, Mike Richards, along with David Bastl. And you have to know, certainly in this household, where anything that you see, any special that has to do with crime, our house generally just sparks up, right? It's just something that we have to watch. And a lot of it, I mean, even if you watch like the world's toughest prisons, you start talking about Mexico and the cartel and the Sinaloa gangs, for instance. The cartels they're fascinating. But the reason I think sometimes, certainly here in Canada, it's fascinating is we think it's so far away. It's like we watch it like it's a movie and a part of the world that has really no connection to us, unless somehow you feel like you're traveling to northern Mexico. But it's just this distance that we always feel that makes us feel safe. And then a book like this comes out by Peter Edwards, called The WolfPack, the millennial mobsters who brought chaos and the cartels to the Canadian underworld. And then you start to read it and you freeze because they're now talking about areas that, quite frankly, as they're listening here in Mississauga, not that far away. The tentacles of the cartels and what the WolfPack in trying to achieve made things a lot more scary, probably for Canadians, and most of us would be completely unaware of it, that it might be just around the corner. And now we have joining us here this morning, Peter Edwards. Good morning, Peter.
Oh, good morning, and thanks for having me.
Well, this is a scary book. I mean, I know it's Halloween and people are picking up Stephen King novels and people are turning into werewolves and vampires and zombies. This is scarier than all of that put together because this is real. This has happened. And I guess for a lot of Canadians, we would be almost oblivious to the fact that the long reaches of the cartels has influence here in this country.
Yeah, then that was a really good introduction you had because it was totally true. I can't drive down the QEW now to Niagara without looking for spots where these guys hid the drugs or where certain things happened. I mean, it's just a reality. Those Marilyn Monroe towers, you know, they're really nice curvy ones in Mississauga. There were some cartel guys living in there. There was at some of the better malls, they were shopping for $35,000 watches. So if I drive through Mississauga, I'm almost sightseeing for the cartel stuff now.
for all the wrong reasons. And we're also joined here by Mexican journalist Luis Najera. Buenos dias, mucho gusto.
Buenos dias, mucho gusto. Thank you for the invitation.
As I would say to my Mexicano friends, que pedo, güey. I don't know if that's a little slang. It's a little slang for people. Yes, of course. I won't explain it because people will be very disturbed by it. Yes. But I would say, Luis, the disturbing thing, and I just talked to Peter about this distance we all feel in Canada that we think is so far away from the El Chapos, the Sinaloa cartels. And, you know, I was horrified. There's a couple of things. Number one, Avery Haynes, who's a journalist here in Canada, did a whole thing on that influence in Playa del Carmen. Well, I had just been there and I had spoken at a convention. And I was acting like a payaso, down the main street, making jokes, talking to everybody, not realizing the facade of just behind what seemed to be fun, the clubs, the drinking, the tequilarias, all these things that seemed to be joking and fun. There is a very ugly, ugly face. In fact, a good friend of ours who was taking pictures. He wasn't a journalista, but he was just taking pictures in and around that area. He got beaten so badly he almost died because they thought he was taking pictures of something quite different. The hidden face at times of the cartel in Mexico is powerful, it's frightening, and sometimes as Canadians, a little oblivious to its existence.
Yes. Good morning first. Yeah, you have no idea how embedded the power, the money of drug cartels is in Mexico. As you said, yes, you have a facade, like beautiful facade, particularly touristic areas like Acapulco, Playa del Carmen, Cancun, Los Cabos, you name it. All these areas, you go there as a tourist and, oh, it's beautiful. Everybody's smiling to me. Everybody's so kind. But then if you take a little bit of time to walk, to listen, and to watch, you will see that there's ugly, ugly things happening there. For instance, the city where I came from, Ciudad Juarez, it's right at the border with El Paso, Texas. So actually both downtowns face each other. You cross the bridge, you are in downtown El Paso, just cross the bridge and you are in downtown Juarez. I remember in the 80s, 90s, clubs 24/7. And everybody was so happy because of this. But then as I begin to dig deeper in that area, I learned that, for instance, child prostitution, it's the ugliest things that you will ever think happen there. Meanwhile, you are sitting there and you are doing nothing. You are like a good tourist, enjoying your time, having fun even with your family. But maybe just behind you, there's someone doing sex trade, and it's amazing. And there's other cities at the border, for instance, where they call halcones or falcons, but these people are informants. But for instance, in Nuevo Laredo, where I did a lot of coverage there at the beginning of the war between Los Zetas and El Chapo, these falcons or these informants are people at gas stations. The guy who pumps your gas is pumping the gas, but is looking inside your car. Okay, how did I look? And if they see something suspicious, they right away, they call the cartel. They say, you know what, there's this car, these license plates, be careful, which happened to me, actually. I was followed consistently when I was doing my reporting there.
Wow. Peter, man, I wish we had more time. I still know we have a lot of time here, but Peter, how do you and Luis get together and combine talents on this book? Random House, by the way, for everybody listening out there, because we're getting a lot of different questions on social media that we can't get to, but how do the two of you partner up on this awesome project?
I'm a very strong reporter, Jim Rankin, just took him into the office, and I looked up and there was this tall guy, standing in front of me, and Jim made the introduction, and I was extremely impressed. And then a little while later, I heard in Quebec about the WolfPack. Like, I heard from a friend there about them, and so I thought this would be a really good project to pull together, both of our kind of knowledge bases.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about the underground and the criminal activities, for the most part, has always been that you can't see them. They're invisible. That they're not loud. Even in Scarface, they keep a low profile, Tony. These kinds of things. But in this scenario, you have millennials who are actually quite proud of what they were doing. So when I look at this, Luis, is this just a reflection of how millennials think, or is this the new kind of criminal that they want you to know who they are?
Yeah, they are. This is the present and the future of organized crime. These flamboyant personalities, always on their phones, posting selfies, checking Instagram, exhibit what they are and who they are, and they don't. For instance, here is they have less. How can I say? They are a little less exhibitors of their behavior. Rather, for instance, in Mexico, and it's understandable. In Mexico, there's the rule of law is pretty much dead. So they have, they pose in Instagram with tigers, they have pets, they have Lamborghinis, they have guns. Here, they also like to pose, they like to post, they like to be in their phones and using the internet a lot. But still, both is kind of this is again a reflection of this new generation, and that's the reality of organized crime now.
Peter, when reading some of the side notes on this, and the one sentence that kind of stuck out, because you talk about the millennial mobsters, as even in the title, the juniors had just stepped into the big leagues, and that's kind of what we're talking about here now. With the new breed of this, with the juniors making that jump, are we seeing? I guess we are seeing a different style of mobster, but what are the main differences that we're seeing? Like you guys talk about the posting on Instagram and that, because before it was very secretive. Are we seeing a more flamboyant type of mobster, or what are the differences for someone like me that really doesn't know?
It used to be, I remember way back when I talked to an old mob guy on St. Clair West, and I asked him about a crime that he where someone was murdered, and he pretty clearly was at the center. Like there were 23 people at a dinner and someone got shot, and he was the one guy who knew everybody. And he just sort of smirked and smiled and made me a coffee and said something about life getting crazy sometimes, and asked how I enjoyed my coffee. And he wouldn't allude to the crime at all, except to say that he's got, that the world can be crazy sometimes. These other guys, the ones we're seeing now, they want an audience. Like when John Raposa was killed on College Street, they did it in the most public way possible. Like when he's under a big screen TV watching a soccer game on a patio with hundreds of people around him. They could have easily killed him somewhere else, but they needed the crowd. It's almost like a kid needing a participation ribbon for being 8th place. Like they needed something.
And there are traits, and I'm just curious, Luis, if we're looking at the tentacles of what is in Canada, do you see like Los Zetas or Sinaloa? Are they both here? Is there a fight over control in Canada in terms of the cartels? More than one? Is there a dominant cartel influence in Canada? How would you describe that?
Well, we know from the research that we did for the book, the Sinaloa is strongly acting or settled here in Ontario, pretty much kind of Western Canada. However, we had some information that Los Zetas are getting involved in human smuggling through the migrant workers program. And also, if you go to the Western kind of Vancouver, Alberta, there's kind of a little bit of a mix between among organizations. For instance, Alberta has a well-known pipeline from all the way to Edmonton, all the way down to Chihuahua. And it's the Mennonite community, because they have strong roots there. They are somehow, some of them, of course, not all of them, some of them, there's bad apples everywhere. So some of them are really, they go south with guns and they come north with the drugs. And then you have Vancouver, which is Asian, and it's a little bit of the Arellano Felix from Tijuana also. So it's kind of mixed, but if the cartels are here, yes, they are, and they are pretty much taking control of a lot of things. They don't fight here necessarily cartel versus cartel. For instance, they use people like the WolfPack. They have, there's a different fight here, but they are here, and I think they are smart enough to understand that they don't need to call that attention from the police, because it's not good for the business, right? In Canada is a very, it's strategic for the business right now.
Well, just to tell you my experience, the reason I started understanding Spanish was because I worked on farms in a farm area just north of Toronto, and they used migrant Mexicanos, Mexican workers, older guys at the time. So this was early 80s. And so I learned Spanish by working with the Mexican farm workers back then. That's 1980. And so I was unaware that a lot of agriculture in Canada, in Ontario, would use migrant farm workers from Mexico. So when you say that, I know just how easy it is, because that's been going on for 20, 30, 40 years probably. And if you were able to infiltrate that, it would be seamless. You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. I mean, this is... It is, as I said, I use the word tentacles just because, it's just how it sort of oozes in, and something very powerful. And as I said, you could be in Brampton, you could be here in Mississauga. You talk about it. Niagara is full of agriculture. And of course, with the border being in Buffalo, trucking, storage, you get on the inside of that, which they'd pay off anybody. I mean, that is just doing business for them. That is frightening. This book, I know, is going to be a must read. And I certainly applaud you, Luis, and for you, and knowing that safety for your family is obviously an issue. When I see the brave, and I mean brave, journalists who actually report and talk about these things still in Mexico, I can't think of anything more dangerous than what you do and what you have done for a living. So I certainly bow to that, because that's a very special kind of bravery, a very, very special kind of strength. And so I think in people reading this, because it's local, but also understanding what it took for you to get to this place in your life is very admirable, and as I said, very brave. So I appreciate both of you joining us here this morning. It's been we got to spend hours on this, quite frankly. It's interesting and scary at the same time, because this is real, it is happening, and I just once again thank you so much for joining us here this morning. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is Peter Edwards and Luis Najera join us. The book, once again, the WolfPack, the millennial mobsters who brought chaos and the cartels to the Canadian underworld. Pretty gripping stuff indeed. It is